back to us with, and you're saying you're gonna cut those costs, so maybe come back to us with how much we're gonna save on to pay the 20 or the 188K at the other.
Library manager for getting up early to be with us.
Thought it was a responsible choice. Thanks for having public input.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's always exciting when we start budget time. Vet this out as to all the ways that ways of enhancing.
There will be an even 12:08. So we'll reconvene at 12:08 p.m. And I see up on our agenda, next is item 3, the strategic budget items. And I believe our administrative team will take us through those again. And this is conversations they will, what's the word? Accommodate, encourage. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so we've identified some strategic items that Council has been looking into, interested in exploring. A lot of these have been highlighted in the budget presentation. Most of these items that we're going to go through are included in this first draft budget. Hence the green numbers. There's a couple with red, which means they're here for your consideration and discussion. However, they're not currently part of the draft budget. And just a few other things as we go through these. Remember, there's not right or wrong answers with all of these. All of these are just really about Council's feeling as to what they feel is appropriate at this time, and all of these reflect different ways of enhancing the things that we do and the ways that we serve the community. So with that, to start off, is the first one is a plan that we have to be able to add and enhance our ability, especially in our budgeting efforts, is to acquire some really slick budgeting software, which is approximately $20,000, and which will greatly help in the budget preparation work that is done, in the reporting that is done, in the time that it takes to do those things, in the things we're able to show the public, and some cool public service type things for the public to help them better understand the budget. And it's something we've spent some time looking into and getting to understand. Especially there's been some other communities that have really benefited from this. So that's the first item.
Okay, we're going to go through these one by one.
Yes.
And we'll accommodate this too for councils. I'll go to every council for comments. And if there are no comments, that's fine. But if you do, we'll just go around the table.
On each item or overall?
On each item, just your thoughts.
So if it works for you, Mayor, if once I introduce it, I'll hand it back to you to then lead the discussion.
Yeah. So, let Councilman be seated. We're on N1, the financial reporting software for $20,000. And just any thoughts? Because we're after
Here is, here's another opportunity that we can forward that to the budget presentation on the 13th. We can put it on the back burner to see if it makes any difference in our presentation. We have gone through some of these already, so if there's any thoughts right now that we'd like to put them on hold until we see the impact. We see $789,000 right now, and if anybody has any thoughts on any of these, how they could adjust or not, then I'll start with Councillor Moore on this one.
On this one, from what I understand, it will increase efficiency enormously and allow us to grow with this software and save staff time. I think that this one is almost a no-brainer because it is something that will definitely provide us savings as well, and perhaps even more efficient reporting. So I hope that this one is going to be meet approval of all of council.
We're only talking about the financial reporting software.
Yeah, so we'll go through them, like, this round table.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I understand the need for this, and I recognize the benefit that it will provide, but at the same time, it's a half point on a mill rate. In a budget that represents, reflects, or a proposed budget that reflects a 16% increase in revenue from tax, I think we have to look at all of the items as to whether or not we are going to force the taxpayers to afford these things.
Okay, Councilor Windsor, or Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I do actually have a quick question regarding this. What, I know other towns are doing this. What are the towns that are doing this? Because I briefly looked into it.
Yeah, thank you. And the specific, because there's different options for these kinds of things. One that we really looked into is one, so we attended a presentation actually that was done by Coaldale, Town of Coaldale's finance team, in explaining the ways that it changed their whole operation by getting this specific kind that we're interested in. And that's what really got us interested in looking more into it. That kind of it was a very fascinating presentation as to all the ways that it helped enhance. They were basically making limited staff resources be that much more productive because of all the time that it saves.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a great idea. I think it would be a lot easier for administration to bring forward the budgets. But back to my colleague's point, is this a need or is this a want at the end of the day?
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
No comment.
Okay. Councilor McCoy?
Will it allow like ease of building the monthly financial statements? And would it increase maybe the information that we could get more regularly because it's going to be more automated?
So I've only seen the demo of the software, but that's the hope is that, well, the financial reporting side of it can be tweaked and changed to meet the needs of council. As far as like a reporting frequency, right now it's just set at quarterly, and that's how often we do it. There's still going to be the month, like all of the information has to be inputted, you know, from the team before it will show up in there. So there's that still has to occur, which takes time after the month end before those reports are produced. But it's the act of producing the report, I guess, that would be simpler, but the more significant part of the software would be the budgeting tool and the ability to budget payroll, like staffing expenses, and the ability to do scenarios. So you could say like scenario 1 of the budget includes this many, 2 additional full-time equivalents. Scenario 2 of the budget doesn't include that, and you can see those differences right within there. Whereas right now it's all through Excel-based spreadsheets, and our financial software isn't you can't import a budget, so we're literally inputting every single line, like thousands of GL accounts for the budgets, and that's the time-consuming part of budgeting.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bowser?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm up for anything that will increase the efficiency of administration, and to take the workload off, to streamline it so that they can do other things they deem important. This just takes the pressure off that workload, and I'm anything from any administration department from top to bottom, if it can release the workload so we get more productivity, I think that's a good idea. I'm sure that administration will vet this out as much as they can to see if it's a really good fit for your particular needs. And because I have the faith that you will not frivolously get some software just because it's available. It has to work for you. And I think anything that'll improve take the workload off and streamline administration is a good thing. That's what I think.
Okay.
And I'll actually start going in order so that I always speak last, because I shouldn't speak last all the time. I don't have any questions either. I think I shouldn't say I don't have any questions. I guess from Coaldale, the CFO, I believe it's going to free up your time. It's going to be very efficient for you. But was there a suggestion as to how much time it would have, that she didn't have to spend on it? Like, I know you spent a lot of time on this budget presentation, so would that decrease by half or 3/4, just because of the efficiency of it? And it's only more an interest question than
Yeah, well, that was one of the biggest points they highlighted, was that the way that it enhanced, it freed them up to do other high-level things and not spend so much time, like Amanda says, all that Excel spreadsheet time that sucks so much time away from people that could be spending that time doing other high-level things for the organization.
It's already in there.
And everything, and when you play with it, it's a few clicks, versus right now, when we play with these things, for instance, and we give Amanda some input and she goes in to make those changes, it takes a really long time for her to simply make all those changes and bring back to look at even what it looks like.
With that comes and I talk about a 3-year plan all the time. I talked about it last year. So this piece of, or this tool would be easy to even project, do our 5-year plans or 10-year multi-year plans. Like it's just that slick. Am I right in interpreting that?
Okay. They also really liked, because it has some really interesting tools on there for public-facing tools that the public can interact with.
Okay.
And really, it just makes the public kind of financial reports that the public is able to access a lot more interactive versus just scrolling through a bunch of pages of numbers.
All right, so I'm hearing that can stay.
Could I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the ongoing costs will be, because this is a one-time cost, right?
It's software as a service, so there's an annual cost of around that 20,000 plus, yes, plus probably an inflationary factor.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see anybody ask, I see support for that statement there.
So the virtual action request system, what was up next?
And I'll just have maybe Amanda give a quick overview of what that is.
Sure. So then this action request system would double as a work order system, and it would move our action requests to an online platform embedded in our website. So any person with a service request or a issue can actually go in from their cell phone or their computer. They could be standing on a pothole in the road and they could log their request right there. It would show the location of the issue, and it would automatically go to the department that it's related to. So right now what's happening is people are either calling in or coming in the front door, which will still accept issues to be raised in that way. And then we're manually inputting the information, sending it to the department. If they think it's not, if it's actually not that department's issue, they send it back, then it gets sent to the right department. So right now it's time consuming and inefficient, and there is a risk of information being lost. But with the new system, it's all digitized, and it gets to the people who can fix the issue or correct it quicker. And then on the other end of it, it also allows those people to track the work that's being done. So by the end of the year or season or whatever your reporting frequency is, you can say, oh, we went to that pothole 7 times, and this is all the work we put into it. It lets you put in like the man hours spent fixing it, the dollars that you took to spend it or fix it, and it would all be in one system, which also has reporting features to it. Whereas right now our work order system is very manual as well, and in Excel spreadsheets, which do not talk to each other or to reporting. It's not easy to report on those either. So it's a similar request in the sense that it will make processes more efficient, and it also will allow a better platform and better interaction with the public, we believe.
Councilor Windsor?
You started with me this time. I was waiting for Councilor Moore to go. Again, I'm going to say that, well, this might be a wonderful thing, and while it might have to be efficient and everything else, I'm still looking at a 16% revenue from tax. And we're going to have to prioritize sooner or later, and this might be one of those things that I'd be willing to prioritize.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you. I feel like this is a system that we could wait until next year to look at again, not at this point in time.
I like anything that creates efficiencies for only $4,700. So.
I'm not noted for being techie, so, what? Do you need some help with your computer? However, does this have an ongoing cost? Is there a licensing fee, and does this maintain an annual cost as well?
Yes, I'm trying to think of what it is. There is an annual cost. I think it's around, the $4,750 includes the implementation fee, and I believe the annual is around $3,500. So $3,500 thereafter.
Thank you.
You want to support it right now?
Pardon me?
Support it right now? To stay?
Well, I'm not at that point yet.
Oh. Well, okay, that's fine. It's not in stone, it's the thing we're just asking for. If there's anything anybody would like.
Right. No, I get that, but I can't, at this point, I can't say yay or nay. I want to see what kind of impacts.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Do I support this kind of technology? Yes, but again, as Councillor Windsor said, depending on the impact of the budget. So that's why I'm kind of reserving
Yeah.
my comments of pro or against.
And I don't mean to imply, of course, we're going to go through deliberations, but I think at this point, what we're trying to say is that if there's something that we really don't want to see back in the budget on the 13th, we just make that statement and a motion, and it doesn't mean it stays away. That's fine.
Yeah, and maybe to help clarify what the mayor's saying, we're kind of looking for some direction if, not that we're making final decisions, but is this something you're kind of leaning towards supporting? So because based on these conversations, we'll make adjustments when we bring this back on the 13th to council. So we just want to know, is this kind of something that most likely you'd like to keep on the shelf or pull off the shelf is kind of what we're...
Councillor McCoy?
I'm just wondering, of all these items, did they come from the pre-budget workshop decisions that were made that night? Some of the increases, was that because people were saying they were in favor of things, and I noticed you did that with the repair and maintenance budget, etc.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Yeah, and just to speak to that, so the pre-budget visioning workshop, we floated some ideas around for council to consider to gauge what they want us to look into and consider bringing back into the first draft of the budget. So not that any decisions were made at all, but yes, a number of these things were visioned as part of that visioning discussion.
And some were addressed by council, some are just being presented here today by administration. So, yeah, you were at that meeting, I believe, Councillor McCoy. That's your only comment on this item? Okay, Councillor Beth?
Again, I appreciate anything that increases efficiency. The only concern I have, and I understand it, is typical with software that there's an annual, it's $3,500 a year annually to keep this thing going. That's the one thing I have to keep in my mind. But it's not an exorbitant amount of money if it proves what it does. But I understand it may be keyword driven. So if you say pothole, it automatically goes to public works, that kind of thing. I'm guessing that's how that would work. So, yeah, I have no issue with this. Like I say, anything that takes the load off of our administration and streamlines things is I'm on board with that.
Councillor Moore?
I think where we're at is that whether this should come back on the next budget iteration, and for sure I'd like to see this one come back. It is something where I do my books on a software that gives me reports and everything generates them themselves. I do my daughter's on Excel, and the opportunities for things to go wrong or get lost or change in a cell and the work that it takes is just astronomically different. So I can't see this not saving us a lot more than $3,500 a year.
Thanks for that.
Okay, we have item C, Parks and Enhanced Capacity.
Thank you. And one thing I also say, just to keep in mind, and we'll look at bringing some additional info on this to help kind of show you, but with that approximate 16% increase, some of that will be offset by the increased assessment. So in the sense that it'll be spread out more widely and apportioned that way. So it's not going to be quite such a direct thing that way. So that's something to keep in mind. As well as when comparing to another thing, just to I'll point out is when we calculated the Bank of Canada numbers, the 4 million, for example, this is just an example, in 2019 is they value at about 4.5 today. So it just helps to put some things in perspective with regards to values. But with regards to Parks Enhanced Capacity, so this is one of the things is, especially during our busy parks seasons, they're very stretched, and so things sometimes take a while to get to, and we saw that this past year sometimes with some certain areas getting a bit more overgrown because, again, how stretched they are in those busy seasons. And so this is a pitch that we can help add some enhancement there to help make that be more robust during those busy park seasons. And so that's what that is, to a seasonal 0.5 enhancement there to help be able to kind of bring that more under control, and for an approximate value of about 10,000.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Question, is this on top of a some student position? Is this a some student position, or?
This is 0.5 of a summer student position. So in the past, we had 4.5 of those, and now we're asking for 5. So instead of starting in July, they would start in May.
I don't really have anything else to say on that,
Okay.
so.
I asked this at the last meeting, and I know based on our action request, that we get a lot of action requests in May, June, rainy season, and grass goes out of control, and even when it's raining, staff can't get out. So when they do have more manpower, I support that seasonal position. It manages our action request system kind of on its own, because we're addressing that ongoing demand through the action request system. So,
Councilor Eno? That you married now?
Yeah, I'm okay with this item coming back.
Councilor McCoy?
I have no comment.
Councilor Bradley?
I think it's going to enhance the look of our town by having it. The things that we miss, we'll catch with that extra manpower. And it's important to me to see I guess the thing that bothers me the most about parks is that there's not enough weed whipping. You can cut the lawn, but if you don't do the weed whipping, it looks undone. And maybe this will overcome that.
Councilor Moore?
Well, we keep adding parks. I don't think we can do that without adding staff, so I'm good with this.
Good point. Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter, and I won't be a broken record again.
Okay.
Well, I can say the same thing over again.
Okay.
We're looking at a 16% increase in our revenue from tax, and we're gonna have to cut something somewhere. And so this may be one of those things that we're gonna consider, I don't know.
Okay, item D, Public Works Enhancement Capacity.
So this is a fun one. This is one that council was really interested in looking at potentially, especially in response to, we recently did a very extensive strategic planning public survey in consultation with the public, and there was an overwhelming response from the public that they're interested in seeing enhancements made to our ability to provide public works, especially in specific areas. And even the surveys showed us that they were willing to pay more to do that. And so council was interested in looking at potentially what this would look like. And so this would be to add, last year we talked about potentially slowly growing to get to the point where we could run a 7-day operation, which would have two crews of 4 working kind of offset from each other. And we can have Craig talk a bit more about how that looks if council's interested. But so we added capacity last year to build towards that. And so this is just a snapshot of what that would potentially look like if we added the 2 more to be able to roll that out this year and roll that 7-day operation out this year. So that's with the +2, and then the amount there is that approximate amount to do that.
I actually when I had my opinion on that at our strategic planning session, I was just clarifying that we were actually just indicating we'd want one position, and I stand with that, I like the 3-year plan. I like to do it gradual. I don't think we can build Rome in a day, and it's about $105,000, so I'd like to see it come back just with one position, because we have, realistically, we have another half position, because we didn't incorporate that last year. We only used half a position last year, so we'd really still be adding 1.5 this year onto the budget. So I still like just the one and work at it with that goal to get to that optimal 7-day rotation. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I would like to see it both ways. I'm definitely in favor of adding staff to our public works. I think our public is telling us streets and roads, and we can't do it without public works help.
I kind of concur with what you said. And I guess I would like to see the snow removal budget and the policy, the bylaw for it's a level of service. I'd like to see it come back and because I don't think it's currently being followed. And if we started to follow it, we would need probably these 2 extra people. So although I agree with you, I think it depends on if we want to maintain a service, the same service level as we currently have, but we aren't maintaining.
Councilor President?
Thank you, Mayor. Is this 2, beyond the 2, I thought the last council meeting we approved 2 members for, do we not?
That was just that was a discussion. That's why it's here again, is because now we see the impact of that on the budget.
All right.
Yeah, but this is in response to that visioning discussion.
Okay, so from my point of view, I think our public works is understaffed, overworked in the capacity where they can't get everything done because they don't have the manpower to do it. And I agree where the public is demanding that we do these things. You can't do it with 3 people. I mean, it's impossible. So, and all it does is stress out our public works manager. So I'm for this. We need to, as described here, we need to be able to have the crews out doing the work that our head of the department wants to get done. And right now it looks like, from what I'm hearing, he can't really get it done because of, you don't have the manpower to do it. So I'm agreeable with it. 2 more people.
So not only did we have the most recent survey, but we also had a vote on our ballot last election, and people made it very clear that they are willing to pay more for this. And as it stands, with the mill rate exactly the same, we have 16% more revenue due to growth and assessment increase. And so this is what the public wants, and I absolutely support doing what they said.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Not to contradict Councillor Moore, but that wasn't a majority that said that they were willing to pay more for roads and streets. And I guess my question through the chair would be that it seems to me we have a significant number of projects on our capital budget that are carrying over that we weren't able to get done. And was that a result of manpower, or was that a result of something other than manpower and the number of people with boots on the street?
Thank you for the question. So the way the department is structured is capital projects are meat for lack of a better description. So engineering does all the capital works, plus the major operations projects like concrete R&M, roads R&M. So I administer sort of those contracts when we go for contracted services. So the capital projects that are carried over are, some of them are, so the 16th Street one has its own version of events. Memorial Complex obviously has its version. Other things have their versions too. So we are carrying parts and pieces over, but not to belabor some of those construction challenges that we faced. So, but what we're talking about here is more the boots on the ground that will get the road painting done, the signs tended to quicker, the pathways cleaned up and maintained and tarred, and signage and garbages and that sort of, this is the operations group that tends to the maintenance component of the town. So making sure the streets get swept, that sort of stuff.
That's great.
So Mayor Hunter, I would lean towards one, but then I also would reserve the right to say that I'm going to be a broken record again and say that we have a 16% increase in revenue from tax, that this may have to be something that we're going to have to consider.
Thank you, Mayor. I would love to go to a 7-day work week. I think that'd be great. But I'd like to see come back as one, and to see if we can do one this year or if we can do two.
Okay, and I hear 4 people saying that we'd like to see 1 and 2, really. I just like to see 1, but I would go with C and 2 as well. And can I just clarify this too, because the reason that these staff are coming on is so that we can have that 7-day rotation, is my interpretation. So I still stand by that gradual process of our budget increases to get to that plan, not all in a year, but I support the long-term plan. So if that is, so that's the question. These are being added to get to the 7-day rotation. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, maybe just take a minute too, Craig, and just explain what that looks like when it is a set, what that means that a department can do when they're running 7 days.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, in thinking about his comment, I forgot what your question was.
Increase in staff capacity so we can achieve that 7-day rotation.
Yeah, we've heard from other municipalities that when they transitioned to that, the staff both appreciated it. They were able to get considerable amounts of work done, because there's periods of time when there's activity in the community that's really low, and we can go out and we can make big messes and then clean them all up before activity comes back. So it gives us the ability to be more flexible with the odds and ends that come up during the course of the year for us. And then sort of how it would look, adding if we were to add 1 person this year, it would stay as just 5-day-a-week operation, and we would build that internal capacity, some redundancy, and create cross-training and take advantage of that opportunity to grow that person with our team, and then bring on the next person, and then do the same thing with them for a bit, and then transition into 7 days a week. But it would be, because we currently have contracts with with our employees that have certain terms in them. So we would work with them to come up with a schedule that worked best for the group that we were working with at the time that we were capable of moving into that situation. So whether it worked as a 4-on, 10 days or 10 hours a day, or whether they wanted to stay 8 hours a day and then have crossover days, which would kind of be more of it would be a better system to keep continuity through the team. But it will be a negotiation with the individuals when we get there, but that's ultimately the idea, is to be able to provide a consistent level of service all week long, and then transition through into the seasons as we do, keeping that momentum. So.
You want to maybe speak to the impacts a 7-day operation would have on snow clearing?
Yeah. So we'd be able to tend to same things on weekends that we do throughout the week without having to go out on call or call contractors in. So a large part of snow removal right now, we lean heavily on the contractors to perform a significant amount of effort for us. And we're noticing it on the bottom line. But going to a 7-day-a-week operation, we'd be able to be cleaning snow as it comes down throughout the week, as opposed to wait until Monday when we would then organize a massive mobilization of lots of equipment to try and deal with as much as we can in the period of time that we get between sort of like 9 o'clock at night and 3 o'clock in the morning. And then our crews aren't even in the next day because they're all sleeping. So it really creates holes in our ability to perform a consistent level of service. So we're kind of like up and down. So.
Okay. Councilman Coyle,
Thank you. So I have just sort of a statement to start with, is that, and I think that's what I was asking for in 3A, is more of a return on investment. So what I just heard you say was that right now you're contracting out a bunch of services. So maybe for the next council meeting, for the next budget presentation, you can come back to us with, and you're saying you're going to cut those costs, so maybe come back to us with how much we're going to save at one end to pay the 20 or the 188K at the other. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not a true cost if you're saying that you're going to reduce the money you're spending on contracting.
we'd have to have a motion for that.
Yeah.
We'd have to have council approval for that. Because we've had the whole budget, so that, anyway, the motion would clarify what you're after there, but I don't get a response to that.
Other than it's kind of a complex question to ask. Snow is as predictable as snow is. So it's hard to know exactly what we're going for, but we do know certain costs per event. So our bylaw that you referred to earlier says that above 4 inches in snowing, we're out there starting on priority ones, organizing trucks to start clearing snow when we come on shift. So we don't start the second it comes at 4. Like if it's 4 inches of snow at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're not out there going, yep, it's still snowing. So that's maybe that's getting a little bit too deep on the one side, but it's hard to predict what it will cost per year to deal with snow. A human being on staff is a consistent expenditure. Whether it's snowing or not, they're going to be doing efforts that improve the service of the town. So it's hard to me to equate one into the other, but the cost of contracted services, we would anticipate a decrease in those. We still need contracted services because we don't have 7 dump trucks. So we still need contracted services. We just wouldn't need contracted services to be running around in bobcats and with shovels in their hands. So.
And my last question is kind of rhetorical. Would these additional people allow the town to start cleaning up their tree mess that's left on roads?
I don't think that's a fair question. That's an operational question that Craig didn't have deployed.
I didn't ask it.
Well, that's, we're getting into the weeds there about operational direction, so.
Thanks, Craig.
Any other questions on this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
With what Craig just said, that leads me to.
Thank you. That leads me to understand that having 2 added staff would get what we want, because you'd be doing the 7-day-a-week thing, which would make it easier on public works, beneficial to the town. So, yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is hiring one person, you're understaffing, you're right back where you started from. You've got the added expense of one more person, but you're not advantaged to the degree you could be.
Is there a question, Councillor Bajic? Just because you've supported this already, so you're supporting it again, so do you have a question here about this?
I just want to confirm that the 7-day plan, from what he explained just a minute ago, is workable with 2 people. Simple for me.
Okay. So is 2 people going to create that 7-day plan?
If we were to bring 2 people on, yeah, we'd need a little bit of transition time to get that competency thing squared away and make sure that they're familiar with all of our systems and procedures. But yeah, that 8 people is that minimum sort of, if you're looking to put 7-day-a-week operation into place, 8 is sort of like that barrier. So that's that glass ceiling. And then above that, it's just how much work you want to get done per shift. And then so, yeah, so the transition is right around that 8 staff members.
Okay.
One quick thing.
Question?
Yes, you asked for a question, so the question might be, what's your ideal complement of Public Works to make it work?
The exact amount that council deems the level of service to be.
That's a pretty good
Thank you.
Are you running for council next term, or?
I guess I'm in a political environment.
Yes. Okay, but, so these two would give you 8. What's the complement there right now? I'm sorry, I'll just stay there.
That's okay, I could just stay here. I figured this one was going to be a bit of a chat. So, so we have 6 right now, full-time. And then, so yeah, so this would take us up to 8.
Plus the water. Is there 2?
That includes all the water operators. But that, so it's 6 plus Adam and Meg. So administrators and then 6 operators, various departments, but yeah.
Thank you for that.
How many women?
Well, Public Works has the foreman, and then a half administrator.
Plus you.
And me, yeah, as the director.
He's capital projects guy. You just explained that earlier. So you don't see you up there with the potholes, which is fair. All right.
You don't want to see another.
So that's something then I hear to see the 1 and 2, because those service levels will have to be discussed. But to take that 2, bring it to 1 for a number, I don't know how you'll do that. It could just be a separate sheet.
I think what we'll do, just to make it easier on Amanda, is we'll keep the 2 in the budget itself, but we'll also show you what the number, if we reduce it to 1, would be.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. All right. We have item E. The
Enhanced RCMP school liaison, added coverage. I get to start that, because I think this is a wonderful position, and I think it's worthy of council consideration. I really do, and you can't say enough about the community enhanced positions to the people you talk to that have them. So I'd like to keep it on the back burner, I guess, per se. And right now it isn't included, so I'm fine with that, but I think it's always something, if we find space, that we would consider. Because I know Staff Sergeant Brown's very interested in that position too, and I like to work with RCMP on that as well.
And this would, just to add to that, so this would, and this isn't currently in the budget, but this would basically enhance our policing coverage, which has been an interest to council, as well as provide an added kind of school liaison speciality within our group of its very focused officers.
Not interested in seeing it come back.
I'm assuming that my negative $116 is that we're not in the budget. This position is not in the budget, correct?
Correct.
And I apologize there. Boy, it would be a steal if it was $116.
I was like, why aren't we doing this? For $116 are great.
I missed the K on that one. So.
I'm like, this is really not a good idea. But so my real question, I guess, is have we approached the school board and the schools to see if they're interested in funding this person, and we would maybe provide some funding, but they would provide the majority, as it's going to benefit them as well, quite well.
No, we haven't. That's an interesting conversation that if council wanted us to, we could have that conversation with them. I'm not sure even how that.
School board funding, something other than education.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask them.
Yeah. I haven't heard of that, but if council wants me to, I'm happy to have the conversation.
You're having trouble funding education right now.
Yeah. I know that they fund FCSS, which is very service-based, right? And the school funds an FCSS family support worker. And so maybe this would also be of interest as a character building kind of a thing, that they go into the school and they're present and they're shaking hands with the kids and high-fiving them and stuff. That maybe the schools would think it's a pilot project. You can suggest it that way too. Sorry.
Well, we have motions about any of this, so I don't think we're gonna, if there's motions to be had, then we'll have them at the end. Councilor Ballard?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just, okay, so the RCMP go into a school and they do whatever they do. Right? It's not a lot of money, but the point I'm trying to get at is that should be part of their PR campaign. It should be a federal thing. They assign a certain officer to go into the school and do these things, bicycle training and all the rest of it. That's the RCMP thing. It's not, to my opinion, it's not a town thing. This is something they should be doing to enhance their posture with the community and the children. That comes from the federal side, not us. It shouldn't be anything we're funding. That's strictly PR for the RCMP, from my point of view. And it's not the amount of money. If it was $1,000 or $20,000, doesn't matter. That's not our job. That's the RCMP's. That's part of their, hey, do you want to be a cop like me kind of thing, or ride your bicycle right and all that kind of stuff. That's something they should be doing on the federal side, from my point of view. Yeah,
So it's a no, I think.
I'm not interested. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Moore?
Yes, the community did not make this a priority, and neither did council when we had our strategic planning. I think that it's an over price for what they would be doing there. Our peace officer, Luke, would be an awesome guy to have drop into the elementary and primary schools. But my answer would be a no.
Okay. Councilor Winter?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I very much support this concept. However, for fear of saying being a broken record again, we got a 16% increase in revenue from tax, and this is one of the things that we probably don't need to be adding at this time.
Okay, so now I understand what you mean by broken record. Thanks for at least acknowledging that.
I caught on like I think after the second time. I don't think this needs to come back.
Well, I agree with some are, but the majority are interested. We'll send them to tell staff Sergeant Brown. All right, we have the stars, air,
Oh, what the heck happened there? I apologize. Wow.
Must have some turn on the class.
Is that the American school?
So I need to preface this a little bit. I absolutely support STARS. I donate money to STARS. I don't want to see it in our budget. If anything, it needs to be moved into our community grant or somewhere thereabouts to get some funding, and not guaranteed to a $2 per capita or a $1 per capita. I think we're seeing more and more charities come forward asking for this type of activity, and inclusion sometimes means uninclusion. We give to one, we need to give to all, and it's again, I'm not against STARS. I'm completely in favor of STARS. They're wonderful. They do a wonderful thing for our community. We built a helipad, but if we're going to donate that kind of money, I think it needs to come through a fund that we've already set aside, that we're funding for our community initiatives, and that the only one I see there would be the community grant. But so I would like to see it come back. I don't think by nature we shouldn't give them something. but not on a budget at an amount they set and a 3-year guarantee on it. I'm just not for that.
All right, thank you, Councilor McCoy.
I don't think I support it, unless you showed it as a separate line somehow on their tax notice, because you're now making, say, a family, 4 kids and 2 adults, right? You're making them pay an additional $12 of their tax dollars towards an agency. And in history's sake, this community, Mountain View County and Carstairs community, already funded STARS to the tune of $100,000 during my term on council to build the helipad so that they didn't have to stock land at the church. Right? I think that's part of the message that can go back, is that we're very supportive. Our taxpayers already paid all that money, right? And I think that's what I think.
Councilor Goswick?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I agree wholeheartedly with Deputy Mayor Engel, because we don't want to set a precedent of supporting charities because they be coming to the door one after the other. So, and this idea of a per capita rate, it's not static. Every year it'll start going up, and we're tied to that increase. So, no, I don't want to support this as it is. I'm with Deputy Mayor Engel in that my family supports STARS 100%, but it's not something that this tax dollar should go to, in my opinion.
Councilor Moore?
Yes, I disagree with governments at any level choosing my charities for me. I'll choose my own. Thanks.
At the fear of being a broken record, I won't say that this time. I'm going to echo what Councillor Moore said, that I think it's up to the individual families to choose their charities and how they support their charities. And so I don't think, well, this is probably a reaction to a motion I made at a council meeting. I'm not supporting this being carried forward.
Thank you. I 100% support STARS. I don't think this needs to be in our budget, and I think we can remove this item. Individuals can donate by themselves, or families can donate by themselves.
I read a really good comment that when we listen, STARS raises $39 million a year through their funding initiatives that are very supported, obviously, by 3 provinces. But one of the comments that really impacted me, and I support STARS too, obviously, one comment that impacted me is that if municipalities start taking this on, then it's just more government downloading that would occur. Plus, STARS is better off not being funded by government, and the way they're running right now is very successful. And once we would hate to see our provincial governments take them. You know, if even when they're talking about them funding them 50%, I think that's really a step in the wrong direction, because they give up their autonomy. But at the same time, if municipalities continue to support them, now we just see the government saying, well, you guys, here's a whole bunch more to download to you. So I certainly agree with us not funding them, but I'm very impressed that everybody does support and fund them to some degree, as I think does our community.
So the next item.
So interested.
Yeah, I don't hear any support for that. And I'm gonna, the Lions Club is on here because, and Councillor Deputy Mayor referenced this too. And I'm gonna make a motion, or have someone, I'm gonna ask someone to make a motion coming out of this to relook our community grant program for important issues like this. Our Lions bus is in trouble. Our community bus that helps transport our seniors is in trouble. Our community, our council supported a motion, a resolution at Alberta municipalities, because Majority of capital transit funding opportunities have been designed only for those established systems, so rural municipalities get nothing, and we continue to fight for that. Our Lions are doing their very best, but obviously went through a couple of really dry years for fundraising. So my point of this, I support groups like the Lions because it's very important to our community to have this transportation. And the resolution was to ask FCM to lobby more for rural municipalities to have this transportation. And I'm just giving you the history of why it's here, because we did support that motion, because our Lions bus is in trouble, because our elderly people can't get where they need to go. And I think if we take a look at our community grant program and we start looking at very important issues like this and rethink our community grant program for groups like the Lions, that's how we can support the Lions. And we're going to have a meeting with the Lions, just for some information. And many other communities support their seniors bus in their tax dollars. So that's why that's here. That's a bit of the information that I have. We'll bring more back, and we'll actually ask the Lions to come and present, likely early in January. But because we're in budget deliberations, this is a really good time to talk about it, but it's also a good time to maybe send that community grant program back to council for some, for a relook. So.
I support this, if we're going to fund that grant, and in principle, we're not going to have all the information. Go ahead.
No, we are. No, I did the last one, I did first.
Oh, I thought I went.
No.
Oh, no, I just gave the information, sorry. Yes, and then I was in support of it. Anyway, go ahead, Councilor McGuire, sorry about that. I wanted to just give you the history of it.
I would like to see this come back to us. I think our seniors are important, and having a broken foot, I could sure use that handy bus right now. And, if we had more service levels, we could get our seniors out and about and doing things, and the busier you are, the happier you are. So I don't know if I support the request itself, but I do support that we look into grants and all kinds of other funding opportunities for it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, but we look at grant support of our local service clubs that are helping our community. Go ahead.
I think it's kind of typical of all organizations, and they'll supply the hardware and the theme, and then all of a sudden the funding now becomes our responsibility. I can't warm up to that, and to some degree I can, because I like the Lion bus, I like the idea, but I don't like people starting something in the best interest and pulling at your heartstrings and then handing it over to someone else to pay the bill. So I think community grant program would be the way to go from my point of view with this request. I do have difficulty with somebody buying a bus and then saying, okay, here you go, town, you look after it. No, I don't like that. Because
Can I clarify for you, Councillor Beswick, too, that in all of council, it's because of their lack of fundraising over the last few years that they're in this situation, and it may very well get better, and it could be just a 1 or 2 time grant through a community grant, so that might help. They weren't looking for that avenue until the pandemic hit, and they just had no financial or capacity to raise funds. So that might help in the community grant, like you said. But carry on, so I just wanted to clarify.
oh, I'm done. If we move to the community grant process, that'd be acceptable to me.
I would say the same thing, that community grant process, I think for 1 or 2 times to be able to get them back up to operating. But really the long-term solution is, doggone it, those cities are getting a per capita transit, and I have told them all along at AUMA, and I think infrastructure has an opportunity for you to say that too, that just because we're a small town doesn't mean that people don't need to move around. And we have seniors and they have all these programs and all these special cars and all the extra funding for all these different things for transit for people to be able to get around. And for some reason, we get left out. And having somebody that is in a big enough municipality to be able to afford a transit system representing us isn't helping. I'll just add that one.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. While I support a community grant program revision, I haven't seen a presentation or a request from the Lions Club. And so until I see the request and what they're actually asking for, I couldn't comment on this one way or the other.
I would like more information.
Yeah, and we comment, we just wanted to get it on the table for this purpose, so it wasn't an afterthought in January or whatever, so.
I get to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to the CAO, based on my age, do I need to recuse myself from this question?
Or based on
I'm
my.
not going to say that.
You would then have to recuse yourself.
I'm a great supporter of, again, the Lions bus. I've been impacted by, personally not me, but aging family members. It served our community well, as have the Lions for a lot of years. However, like Councillor Windsor said, we don't know what they're asking for even, so I don't know what I would be agreeing to. Again, as Councillor Baswick said, community grant, I think that's what this is set up for, and we have to maybe change kind of the way we use that money and like Mayor Hunter said, fund some of these emergency initiatives that we have. And so I would like to see their presentation, which it says we're going to get here, and then be able to make a better decision. But based on what I know today, it definitely would have to be, you know, kind of a one-time community grant. But I don't know how much we have in there to give either, like what the requests are. So that's where I would like to see it come back to.
Great. Good, okay, so we have, that will come back with more information, obviously. And I'll have a bunch of two, but repairs and maintenance, R&M. Ethan.
All right, so council was interested in, so last year, now every year, council has spent a couple $100,000 on repairs and maintenance for roads. Again, in line with the community's interest and willing to spend money for roads. Last year, council took the money that they normally were going to spend on those roads and pulled that back so that they could help offset the cost to add that added public works person. So that was the decision they made last year. So last year the roads went to zero because we grew by 1 in our public works. Through some of our visioning discussions, the council was interested in potentially exploring putting that back in and wanted to look at potentially doing that to the tune of $250. So that's what that is here.
Okay, Councilor Bradley.
If you recall, we had a special person present to us. And the biggest thing he came up with was roads and sidewalks. That's what people want in this town. That was his focus. That was his lead item. And the third one down, I think, was spray park or something. So knowing that, this has to go because the people want it. I want it. And Craig wants it. Or maybe he doesn't, I don't know.
You just have to. Craig wants what you guys.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was dominant in that discussion we had, totally. So we have to move in that direction, in my opinion.
Councilor Moore?
Absolutely.
Okay, so back to the broken record. We got a 16% increase in our revenue from tax, and it may be that this is going to have to be reconsidered. While I support the concept, it may have to be reconsidered.
It's only money.
Thank you, Mayor. Tough. Yeah, I think we gotta keep it as 250. People want better roads. They want the best infrastructure possible, and I think this should be a long way to help.
I think sadly, our government has truly impacted our capacity to do capital projects. And with our decrease, that I really think this council needs to start making some really serious statements about this LGFF and MSI. We're down to 300,000 at the end of next year. And my point of that, I'm making it a short story long, because we really need to make sure our capital funding from the government through the LGFF is going to be adequate. But having said that, if we don't have the capacity to do these projects with our MSI or LGFF, then we have to do it through our operational budget. Because I agree with the comments about roads are needing to be looked after, and that's one of the priorities of our community. And so I have to support the 250 because the government is going to support us with our historical good funding through the MSI. So they're downloading that obviously to our taxpayers to take on, and we'll just have to identify that MSI and LGFF reductions that we have to pick this up ourselves through our tax base.
Yeah, I would bring this back.
I would too, and I just wanted to mention, maybe you can, through the chair, Ethan, you can explain why a decision not to do any road work as operational last year was changed to zero without it coming to council.
Oh, and maybe there's a misunderstanding. So that when it was changed to zero, that was done by council, by a motion of council.
Yeah.
And we did that because of the asphalt repair machine that we bought and the additional capacity we provided to that position, to those positions to run the asphalt repair, and that was our road maintenance last year.
Oh,
well.
now we've gone around.
I don't want to hesitate.
Tell us, John.
The same house. No, no.
Yeah, but,
He's going.
yeah, but,
Unless you have a budget. You can't support it again, you have another question.
well.
Now he changes his mind.
Yeah, but you have a question?
With all that going on, I can't remember now.
All right, well, we can talk about, we're gonna go on the sidewalks, so,
And this is straightforward. This is again, council had a lot of conversation about sidewalks. Just to give you a bit of the background, as you're all familiar with, traditionally council's done 80 grand for this line the last number of years. And there was some interest in potentially looking at a higher amount for this year, and the amount council wanted to start at to look at potentially was this funny number of 105.
back to Councilor Moore.
I thought I was saying absolutely to both, and I would like to point out that the increase is, some of that is growth, and I don't consider that an increase to our property taxpayers. The growth is additional, and I don't know why we would consider cutting back because we got some growth finally.
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
We've heard like 6 times that we got 16% more from property taxes. And the fact is that some of that is from growth. And so it is not an addition to our existing taxpayers. The amount that came from growth, are we not going to put that into the things that people have said that they wanted. So,
This is the repair and maintenance, not the new.
yes, we're not talking about new, we're talking about property tax revenue. And some of that is from growth. And so I consider that new money that we can actually spend on people's priorities. And roads and sidewalks are their priorities. So again, I'll say absolutely.
I thought you meant new sidewalks for your business.
No.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I will, well, again, I completely support this concept. We have a 16% increase in our revenue from tax, and this may have to be reconsidered.
You just want to have that as a standing thing?
We've recorded it, now we can say it.
And that would actually definitely sound like a broken record then at that point.
If you have a different answer, then I'll ask you.
Okay.
I don't mind your comment, but that's fair. That sounds good.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I would like this to come back in a small number, maybe around $90,000.
Okay.
Mayor Hunter? Mayor Hunter?
Yes?
I remember what I was going to ask.
Oh, okay, well, they're not delays then.
It takes a while. I guess what it is that, you remember, the focus was roads, sidewalks. That's all we heard, right? That's what the public want. So now we're charged with finding a way to make that happen. That's our job. So whatever it takes, we have to do that because that's what the public wants.
That's not a question.
No, but it's an observation.
I thought you already said that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where was that?
You're at yourself.
I guess I'm not, I know we did a survey, but I know that 180 people answered it, and I know that it is important to our community roads and streets, but I also know they have other priorities too. So I was satisfied with it being at 80 in continuity, perpetuity. I was fine with that, and I think I can continue to be fine with that because I think it's a great project, and you can't build Rome in a day, and our budget has a whole bunch of components to it that are very important. So I would support even 90, but 80 would be my ideal because that's what it's always been.
I would support this. Again, I look at it differently. I don't know what the impact is till I see it. So I'm fine with seeing it sidewalks at 150,000. I'm not asking for that, but I'm fine with seeing it at that so that I can make a decision. But I'm good with it coming back at 105.
I support the 105 coming back, and you weren't even maintaining problems at 80,000, so to move it back to 80, we're just going to be fixing real disasters, but there's lots of semi-disasters en route that Craig would have the opportunity to get a head start on if we increase the amount of time or money that he can spend on sidewalks. And eventually we catch up, so then it's just annual maintenance and we're not under this heavy load of year-long construction because we haven't maintained it over the years. So I support it.
Okay. You spoke already, but
Yeah,
you can
but-
speak again.
But not on sidewalks, No, I'm just trying to.
See, you're confusing me now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to reflect, and the last time Craig made a comment that he had $80,000 budget for sidewalks, and he only spent 70 of that, correct? Something like that? So he saved his money doing it. So I have no fear of this 105, because chances are it'll come in at maybe 90, maybe 100, you know.
Oh, you're very optimistic. Okay, so you started.
Greg in here.
I'm trying to give him an attaboy on that one.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
So we see that staying there based on the information, and I'm just going to open up about COLA because what we're after with this conversation is not personal opinions about what staff should get. It's about what percentage you would support. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you can, it's proposed at 3, so really we're just asking to bring that 3% back, or do you like to see 2 or 1 or 0 or 5? Like, that's just a number that you need to say, because we don't want to get into the weeds about staff and what other communities might or might not do. Councillor Windsor?
So you're not going to ask me about the broken record? Did I have to say something?
I should still recording this.
I'll support the 3%.
Thank you. I would support a 1.5, one and a half, and I don't think council should get it. I think it should just be administration staff.
I support 3.
Yeah, I would be between 2 and 3, and I would agree with not taking it on council. I don't think that we need to take COLA.
Question through the chair. Does this COLA, right now, this 103,000, does it include council? Okay, so then that would reduce it if we took the council out.
Why?
Well, no, I'm not saying we should. I'm just asking if it's in there already. I'm not saying we should or should. Thank you.
0, 1, 2, 3.
I would like it to come back.
As is.
Yeah. Other groups I'm associated with do it for boards, council, the whole works. There's no division. And for the sake of $30 or whatever it is, it's not a big deal. So I'm going 3%.
Councillor Warren?
Certainly, I think in today's environment, 3 is a minimum. I'm going with 3.
All right, you heard that. Councillor Wood. Council Professional Development, that would be Councillor Wood.
And I'll just maybe just throw out there, just so we're aware, this number specifically is just approximately what you had last year.
So there's no increases or decreases, okay?
It was 38, something, we just topped it up to 39. So, but it's in the same ballpark as last year.
If it's the same as last year, keep it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm good.
I don't understand why it's on this list. I guess if the 39K isn't an increase, it's in green, which every other item said that was an increase in the budget. So I'm confused. So you're not saying you're going to double the budget, right?
No.
Bring it through at 39,000.
No, I can clarify. Thank you for the question. This is specifically just there to see if council wants to continue to do the same number that they did last year. This says the number currently in the budget is the exact same ballpark as it was last year.
Okay, so this 39 is what was last year.
Awesome. And it's in this year's.
Yeah, I'm at the same meeting, right? Yeah, so, yeah, I leave it the same. There's no reason to raise that up. I don't plan to go to Halifax or wherever.
At least not on camera.
Yes, I agree, that's enough.
Yeah. I agree. You have something to say?
No, I can speak for the council.
You sound like a broken record.
You can talk about taking it down a bit if you want us to.
Was that on the right track there? Perfect.
Okay.
Everybody's getting the message.
I'd like to hear it on this one, though.
All right, so we have next is the library capital.
And again, this number specifically, it's what we put in the budget, and what on this one, because we know this is just an item of varied views at the council table, and so for this one, we just put exactly what you put last year.
And I have a thought about this because we're continue to, we topped up the 245,000 we topped up from 2021 into 22. We give a one-time $7,000 grant. And that was what was discussed around the table. And so I know there was an increase presented, but I would like to say that we split in the middle then, and it's 24,000 total for 2 years that would add up to it. So I would suggest that we have a commitment from the county to match that 24, so they pay 12 to get, we asked them to forward that one-time grant for 12,000 to the town so we can forward it to the library. And then the library would have the current funding that they need in their current budget. So again, the town of Disbury does not always have to keep increasing our per capita. The county is obligated to increase their per capita as well. So I would suggest a motion for that too, that the county be asked to contribute to the ask from the library to increase 7 last year and 17 this year to be 24, and the county's half is 12. So that is my proposal, and I'll start with.
Me? Oh. Okay, I just need some clarification here. Because the library board asked for $228,978.50 from council, but we've got a number on here of $252,074. So is this just the town proportion, or what? Like, is the county money in this as well?
Yeah, Amanda, you'll answer this, I know. The council dealt with this with how we fund now that 4639 per capita. So
no,
go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I'm just asking on this
because
question here is the 252 the total amount that we're proposing with the county? Like that's with their proportion, right? Because I liked what you said about the increase of 12, and then the county's responsible for 12 because they're the ones that keep not coming to the table, and we keep getting beat up for it. And it's time that they contribute the same. So I would agree with how Rhonda stated it. We want to get them to that funding, but we need the partner in this to pay equally.
For the new increase.
For the new increase.
And can I qualify? I'll stay with the 252 if we can't get the council or the county to participate. So, but I think we'd be successful. Go ahead, Councilor McCoy.
I'm just curious because the library also has increased costs just like us. And so are we just expecting them to absorb those cost of living things? And so we're actually underfunding them?
We're asking about this 252. And Amanda, did you want to answer that question too about how we got to that 4639 and how the counties... The grant is the town's grant that we absorb into our budget, so then it was broken out.
Sure.
Is that right?
So in 2022, the town paid $252,074 to the library, and so that is the amount of the operating grant. Now, the town's budget is offset by a fund from the county, but the whole grant is from the town to the library. So in the library's budget, they're breaking out the county portion and the town portion, which isn't accurate. And so that's where the discrepancy is. But the 252,000 and the numbers you see on the slide for all the years are the combined, the total payment from the town to the county. The confusion is because years ago we used to break them out, the two payments, and whatever the county's portion was, we would just pay directly to the library. And so that has caused confusion over the past 2 or 3 years now.
Can I ask so that makes sense, but like, can you just, what is our part of the 252,000? I like the net thing.
Well, then, okay, the net, so that's where you'd look at the library department budget, because we have other costs, right? We have building costs, not just the grant. And so part of the county's money is for paying for having a building there as well, our building costs. So to get that net library cost, you'd want to look at the library budget. Do you want me to pull that up right now?
I can look later.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, did you answer that? What's there? 252?
She said, I said I would look it up, and she told me to find
I
it.
know, we're just going around the table about that number.
You want
on there.
Oh, I want it to come back, and I'd like to see it after a conversation with the library manager to see whether we're in line with what their expectations are. And not that we can always meet people's expectations, but I think that conversation would help.
I think the library was here, presenting their budget. But I guess that'd be another motion if you want to make it. Councilor Ballard?
Okay, well, I agree with what you've said about that. We were making the assumption that the county's going to jump in with their $12,000. I don't know if that's going to be a stretch to see them do that, right? So it's one of those things where you can't count on the grant ever. You never know where it's going to come from, if it's going to come through. So that's the only fly in the ointment for me in this narrative that you gave. It was that if you assume the county's going to be on board, if we had that for sure, that'd be fine, but I don't know where they're going to be. I'll talk to my brother-in-law or son-in-law and see.
Well,
Even for a while.
well, what I said to Councilor Basman was I support the 4639 per capita unless the county comes in to increase their per capita grant to the town.
Or a one-time grant to the library. So that's how
A question first, I was just looking for it, I didn't see it yet. The amount that the county is, the allocation that we give for the amount that the county contributes, since their grant went up by 5% according to, did we put that up by 5%?
No, so you'll see in the budget, the revenue for our library went up by that 5%, the funding coming in.
Good.
But we have not adjusted the town's operating grant going out, because that's what you're discussing right now.
Okay, because it seems to me that it shouldn't, you know, if it came in all within recreation and library and everything else, that if it came in at 5% higher, that the library should get credit for that 5% on their portion of it. It shouldn't all go to the recreation portion. So, yes, I absolutely would like the county to pay $46.39 per capita. But let's work on whatever we can get for the time being.
Okay. Councilor Ballard?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think this involves a lot of conversations. I think this is something that has to be taken up by our ICC to negotiate a much better deal with the county than what we've had in the past and what we continue to have. We set this per capita rate a year, 2 years ago, I think it was, and we have never talked about a cost adjustment annually for this amount. It's stayed there, and all other costs have gone up. I think that what I would personally support is that we should be applying the same 3% that we're going to do with our staff or COLA to that 4639, which would meet their obligation for their budget for the most part. That's what I would like to see.
Oh, you're not a broken record? Yes, you did.
Well, I could do the broken record, but it doesn't apply here.
Okay.
I would like to see that idea that council would brought forward, and I think it is up to ICC to push for a better deal within the county. They gotta pay their fair share.
And I'm gonna go around again because of the 3%, but I'm not talking about our ICC agreement, because we know we're gonna be discussing that. I'm talking about last year, our council gave a $7,000 one-time grant, and I think the counties should be obligated to match those grants that we give to help our library meet their budget needs. So it would be an ask for them to contribute that $12,000 in next year's budget as a one-time grant until we get this all sorted out with our ICF. So those are the thoughts. So we have a 3% proposal, and we can go around with that. You could support both of those initiatives, the 3% plus we could ask the county for whatever doesn't meet that need in the current budget of the library. We can do two things. So I'm going to go, I certainly would support that 3% too, but I also would like to send a letter for them to do a one-time grant. Councillor Engel? Deputy Mayor Engel? Just because we have some new proposals on the table.
Yeah, my calculation, the 3% is about a $6,000 increase, roughly $6,600. That doesn't, no, it'd be more than that. They're looking at 228. Yeah, worst case scenario, I would like to see that if we receive 5% more from the county, that 5% go directly, their portion of it go directly there, and we do need to have that cost of living built in, because they're like everyone else's costs, they're going up. So this probably is a much bigger chat, but we need it brought back.
Are you addressing the 3% or the other one-time grant?
I'm interested in both of them.
Well,
however, we can't.
We want to see the 3 and 5% brought back and have a letter as well. I really think that the county needs to understand that one-time grants are fair, because if we are doing them, they can do them until we get it sorted out.
Yeah, I just think that, like everything else, I mean, our inflation's running at 8%. Well, it was at 8%. It's down a little bit more, but maybe that percentage is down because our costs are up so high. So if it goes up 15%, it only looks like 6%.
I'm going around again, so it's your
okay.
turn, yeah.
So I found the budget line, just so I might as well share it, that it says library revenues are provincial grants, MSI operating, 75,000. So that is not out of our pocket, correct? And the other part is just the Mountain View County shared facility contribution, which is 42,952.
Amanda did explain those earlier, where they come from, so that's an MSI operating 75,000 grant. Hey, Amanda, I think council needs to go back to that conversation we had about the town looks after the building. And that's why the grant that we get from the county, that is the town's agreement with the county. So the conversation was always about, that comes to the town, and then the council went around and we agreed on a 4639 per capita. And I think, and if I could, to not belabor the conversation, if the per capita is adjusted by 3 or 5%, I think maybe that's a conversation we're on. And can we would everybody agree to a 3% get brought back and a 5% get brought back? And a letter that we'll send, but for, anything different. But if we got the 3 and 5% increase, would that be a good start for everybody at the next budget when it's presented on the 13th? Okay, Councillor, are you good with that?
Before we over it with your letter, what happens?
Yeah. Okay, you have one?
It might be hard to find one in the winter, but you never know. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The letter, I support the letter, the concept of the letter. However, I think it's important that that when we formulate that ask, that it represent the Mount View County rural population as opposed to the town of Disbury population. The town of Disbury gave $7,000 for 5,368 people, and so whatever the rural population for the Mount View County should be correlated. Rather than just saying it should be 50-50 because that's not fair.
Local big or go home, but whatever. I agree with you on that. Ethan has something to say.
And I just wanted to clarify, is it you're wanting to look at 3 and 5% on the 252 or on the per capita amount?
Per capita
On the
amount.
per capita
And that
amount.
would be their per capita amount, right? Because that's, no,
Where's this agreement?
would be on the 4630 that we're paying right now.
I wonder if you agree that if you give them a letter saying 3 or 5, they're going to go for 3. So if you went straight for 5 and let them negotiate down, you might get 4. So I wouldn't put 3 in there at all. If I was negotiating with them, I'd go for the 5 and let them come back. They will with a lower number. But it'll still be, the county will come back with 4 or 3. Maybe we'll get a bonus point on that, right?
But maybe. Well, and we're talking about.
We're talking about the per capita. We're not talking about what they allocate every year to that agreement. So maybe that's something, we've been on this long enough, the ICC is meeting this week, our committee, so should we just address it then? Or bring it back to the December 13th meeting about the direction we recommend? Is that fair? Because we've got some good ideas from everybody here. And I think that's a good way to start. Okay. And I did see one of our lions just enter, and Doris just entered. She's from the Lions. I just want to tell you, we've discussed I can phone you later and update you on that. Because I mean, you can sit and listen to our budget talks, but we did discuss the Lions bus already.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I
That's
thought the
okay.
meeting started at 2.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, no.
No, that's okay. We can certainly update you.
That would be
Not right
great.
now, but
That
I
would be
can.
wonderful, Rhonda.
Okay.
Thank you
I
so
just-
much.
You're welcome to stay, but I know that's not what you didn't come to hear the rest. I know that.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor McQuaid?
One other question through the chair. Does Mountain View County also pay a requisition to Parkland Regional, or only we do? We do too? And is that mandated by Parkland? They don't get to say, this is how much you get?
No. It's the same as ours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's calculated on
All right, so we can move on, is that clear enough? Or-
Yeah, Mayor, is it okay if it's about that time where we can maybe take just a little short?
Sure, that's right.
Two more things. You got 2 more, let's just fill those 2.
Or maybe they have a reason. We have the round table too.
Got it, yes.
So they, yeah.
So maybe they have a reason. Round table is.
Oh, I know, I'm talking the last 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Ethan? Can we, we'll finish these 2 items and then come back to the round table. How's
Sure.
that?
And you were standing up to vote for that, right? Okay. So we have candidate A. I think it's Deputy Mayor's turn to start. The candidate A, 5,000.
And this is just what we did last year, just to confirm that you're good with us just doing what we did last year.
Good. Good.
I'm good, but perhaps it could become a community event where community groups get involved and we let them do Canada Day and we support it to the tune of something. Like, I don't think it's necessarily our job to put everything on, and I think if the community was engaged and they were putting on what they thought everyone wanted, right, it might be, and it wouldn't cost us any money. Thank you.
5? You support 5?
I said that at the beginning.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm looking to lower at 4, but I can move to 5.
Okay.
And I'm going to suggest that when the motion comes out about the community grant that council has, that we include this maybe as an opportunity for Councilor McCoy's idea that we could include that we identify a number in the community grant. If someone wants to grab it, they can.
Yeah.
But it's a consideration. I'm not saying we'll do it, but it's that idea out there.
Yeah, because to clarify, this is just to run fireworks, so this isn't.
Well, I know. I think it's a community grant motion.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's along.
Okay, and contingency?
And this is just here because council made the decision to move to a zero contingency, again, one of those pockets that they pulled from, and this is just to see if you want to continue down that road or do something different.
Is Councilor McCoy first this time? Yes. Oh, thank you. So the contingency. Who's talking about?
I said yes.
You'd be rude.
No, I was talking to one.
He insulted him,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm in the middle. Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
I don't mind the contingency staying the same, only because it then sort of means that you have to bring those disasters back to us. And they're not your fault necessarily, like the paving increases went up. Well, you can't deal with that, right? So I like it at 0 because it's not like a buffer that you could use for something else. Thank you.
Councilor Baswick?
Yeah, I don't understand what contingency for what.
Well, our CO's had a contingency fund. If you explain it, it's yours.
Sure. Traditionally, it's one of those things that I like to call it, if I have it, I call it a kind of make things happen. When something arises that you didn't know was going to happen, some kind of urgent matter that comes up that you can just address, it's kind of like an extra fund for those unexpected things that might arise, and it's a little bit of money that tends to be something that the CAO allows, or that the council allows the CAO to take care of problems with. And so that's what it's traditionally used for.
Okay, don't you already have that authority?
No.
Why?
No, because in the budget, everything is earmarked for specific things. And so this kind of thing, and I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we used some of it when the seniors, the 5-0 club, had major leaking in the roof, and we used some of that money to take care of that roof for the seniors.
I always thought it was discretionary, because I remember with a former CAO, he just signed a thing for $50,000 to fix an emergency at the curling rink. Remember, with that thing, the ice maker broke down. There was a $50,000 repair or something, and it was a weekend or something like that. He just signed off and authorized it. There was certain discretion that he had. Don't you have that discretion to do that within a budget of your own?
Not for things that are outside of what's in the budget. So there is some discretion I have with the items that I have budget money for, but usually a contingency is used for those things that don't fit within any of the budget lines. So unplanned things that you didn't anticipate happening. And as Councillor McCoy says, without it, it's just more of a process where if something does come up, then we bring a request to council, and either way is fine. I'm not recommending one way or the other. I'm just bringing this up to see if there's council interest on one way or the other.
Okay.
I kind of misunderstood that I thought this was a administration contingency thing, as opposed to a town thing. But, like it was segregated to administration only, this contingency idea. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And so last year, council set it for 0, which meant there was no leeway on things that were outside of the budget.
Okay, I don't expect you to call a special meeting for something that comes up. I expect within reason, I'm expecting you to buy a Lamborghini for $1 million, but I do expect if something breaks down, you have the authority to do it without having a special council meeting and, that kind of thing. Is that my?
Well, and to be fair, we probably wouldn't call a special meeting. It would just be an RFD that we would bring to the next council meeting. So it's another example of the kind of things we've done in the past with the contingency is, again, at the 5-0 building, when their windows weren't closing properly because they were really old and in the winter it was getting really cold, we replaced the windows. So that's another example of the kind of thing. But at the start of the year, we didn't know that was going to be needed, so there was no budget money for that, but we used the contingency money to do that.
Kind of like if the heater blew up here.
Right.
You'd get people on it, you wouldn't have to call a council meeting to start that going.
Well, if we didn't have money in the budget to do that, we would need first to get, which is what a contingency fund is for, if you want to save the time of coming to council.
Ethan, too, with that, there's a repair and maintenance budget for the town office. There's a repair and maintenance for most
Something like that would fit in probably one of the lines. It really is for those kind of special type things that you didn't know were going to be.
So would you rather have this at 0 or at some number?
I would like this to be at the number of council would like.
I went to the school of the big rocks.
I think the council board can go.
They work together.
I actually feel that this is something we asked administration to make things happen, to make it work, to do what's needed, and then we want to control these things to this degree. I would love to see the contingency come back. He has to report it to us anyway when he uses it. But if it's on a weekend and the roof is falling in, I do not want a council meeting. So I would like to see it come back.
You gotta trust someone somewhere.
Yeah, we got to, I'm good with where it is.
Councilor Ian Williams?
I'll move for it as well.
I'm good with where it is. This is turn.
I would like to see contingency money.
So 100% increase is 0, but
You'd like to see 1,000 for
so we would have to set a number at some point. We couldn't just do a percentage on this.
Can I, just for history too, Ethan, the contingency was cut because we were trying to find things to cut in budgets. And so that one was a doable one because it's very rarely used. And we always have surpluses and we always
That was
have
during
means.
COVID when we were looking for ways.
Right, so we're looking for ways to cut. So that's why that went to 0. And it has worked so far. And I don't believe our CEO's hands have ever been tied. But Councilor McCoy?
I was just going to say that if the roof collapsed on the arena, it would be considered a disaster and exceptional, and you would move forward immediately because it's a disaster.
With the disaster fund.
And then, but then you tell us afterward, but you'd have the work started, right?
I'd use the disaster fund.
Yeah.
Call it contingency.
It's the same amount as the contingency. Exactly.
No, you have to follow protocol, you have to go to committee.
Just get some answers so we can go to break.
So I'm not sure where that fall down.
We have a yes, a no, a no, well, it's 0, 0, 0. Wants a contingency, wants a contingency.
0.
0, so,
I want to continue,
okay, so it's 4, majority 0.
but not 0.
Well, that's what it is now. So, anyway.
You lost the
voting
vote,
for us.
So we're gonna break at 2 o'clock. It's 15 minutes,
Oh, yeah.
10, 12 minutes. I'm gonna give you 12 minutes. Be back at 2:12.
Because you're hoping we'll be back by 2:15.
Yes.
2:12.
Okay, and we'll recess at 2 o'clock. We are actually to the council roundtable, and some thoughts were brought up earlier this morning, and I'll have Ethan explain what this is about, and then we'll take turns again. Go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so we wanted to kind of round off the strategic items and kind of make sure we're doing a roundtable, give every council member a chance if there's things from previous discussions that you'd like to flesh out a bit more, or aspects that you want to flesh out a bit more, but also more specifically too, if there's anything that's missing, if there's something that you would like council to consider to put in the budget or adjust or do something, some other issue that we haven't identified that's not on our radar, that you think should be, this thought would give everyone the opportunity to raise those things.
Is Alex going to start?
It is.
Thank you.
And it can't be things we've just discussed, just so everybody.
Oh, no, this is totally new. I'll tell you a little story.
What story is that?
War and Peace by Tolstoy.
Yeah. Well, today is my anniversary, but last night we went out for supper. So we thought, let's take a little drive. So I went with my daughter, son-in-law. We headed south. We went through Carstairs, and beautiful, well-lit Christmas. It looked awesome. And then we ended up in Crossfield, and that was outstanding. And I think members of council should take a little tour of some of these places and do a comparison, because a comparison between us and other towns, there is no comparison. You can stand at the end of the street at the Dairy Queen in Olds and look up Highway 27 and look down the main street of Olds, and it's absolutely beautiful, right? Now, this isn't an administration issue, because administration does exactly what we tell them to do, okay? So they're out of this comment or discussion. I guess what I'm saying is that if you were to look at the Christmas tree by the train station, it's absolutely horrible. One stream of lights on a 60-foot tree is ridiculous. It's just not acceptable to me. We've gone through 2.5 years of sequestration in our homes and stuff, and the town needs a little bit of joy. Now, I don't know about anybody at this table here, but I understand the meaning of Christmas. And it's not just lights and stuff, but lights is the thing that brings the joy to people in town. And we owe more to the people than just doing numbers and stuff. We have to bring them, we have to help with their psyche and their psychological feeling. And right now, you stand at Home Hardware and look down the street and it's a dark hole. There is nothing. We have a couple of lights on a couple of trees and stuff like that, and the arts community should be up in arms about this, because we're not celebrating anything. And it's so easy to do, so easy to do. If you saw what these towns did with their lighting, it's nothing special. It's just LED lights and the way they put them on the trees and stuff. There's a company out of Cochrane who will do all the lighting for you, and it'll look something like, if you've ever been to Red Deer and see what they've done, of course that's been over years, but they've done a beautiful job. They do it like that, tree wrapping and all that kind of thing, and the end result is, at the end of the season, they take it all down. So it's not an effort from our Public Works Department, for one thing. We don't put the pressure on them. I guess what I'm saying is, I want some money in the budget. We're not going to make it this year. I knew that was going to happen. I've been beating this horse since 5 years ago, from the first year I was on council. We finally, after 5 years, are getting plug-ins on the poles with great pain and discussion on and on and on. I mean, how long does it take? And I'm judging this by how we were able to expedite a man who came in at the last council meeting, and that day, even though it was against the bylaw, we gave him approval. That shows we can do it if we have the will to do it. We're going to fix the bylaw after. In the meantime, this fella, the citizen, got what he needed. We got to start focusing, in my humble opinion, more on the well-being of our community. How do people feel? How do we make them feel? It's the old story of you can say something to somebody with words, but it's how you make them feel at the end of the day. It's got nothing to do with anything else. And right now, and by the way, when we went to Crossfield, what did we do? We had supper there. And that's what happens. People come into town to see your glorious Christmas lights, and they buy gas, they go to a movie, whatever. They spend money in your town. We have nothing like that to attract us here. The only one that's doing it is Phil and Melissa. They have the.
Do you have a motion? Like, you can have a motion about this, because that's how you get things done. I think your presentation is getting to your point, but it's your motion that'll make a difference. If you want money in the budget for Christmas, then you have to make a motion. And council either supports it or not. So
I understand that.
So when we're done, the round table, you're obviously starting, then we'll bring out all the motions, and if you have a motion, then we'll vote on it.
Right. But if I just want to make sure you get the message,
Well,
that I went there and we spent money in Crossfield because we went and saw their Christmas lights. I wouldn't have spent any money in Crossfield if that wouldn't have been the case. So if you want people to spend money in Didsbury, right now people are saying, let's go to Oldsmar to look at the lights. Let's go to Carstairs and look at the lights. Let's go to Carstairs. And then they say, let's go to Didsbury and what? Turn on the lights. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a wet blanket, but this is just so bothersome to me, and it's been such a 5-year fight to get a damn light up, excuse the expression.
We've never had a motion. In fairness, there's been no motions about that, so that's what this round table does, is bring out anybody's interest and what they want to bring forward. And
there sure has been a motion. It went to our committee.
And you've dealt with that. So that was how it got there, was by motion. So if you'll have a motion about this, when we come out of round table.
Okay, first of all, I need...
Then you'll have to have a number?
Some type of consensus that people even want to do this. Nobody seems to be interested in Christmas at all. And I don't understand it.
Don't say that. I've always supported it.
Just as a question, are we gonna add everybody's wish list to the budget, or are we?
We're gonna have motions coming out of the round table.
Okay.
Yeah, the wish list will be tested.
But
The wish list will be tested through motion.
If it doesn't come up, I don't have to repeat it, because
No.
it's not gonna be vetoed by me not saying anything.
No, he'll have the opportunity to make his
Anybody that makes a motion will be voted on.
Okay, that was just my disturbing observation of the darkness of...
Okay,
Yeah,
That's
I don't
fair.
want the place to look like purgatory. I want it to look more like we're alive and doing stuff. Anyway.
And I'm not going to debate your idea, but I'm going to say that our downtown looks beautiful with the garland we've always hung, and that we've been very proud of that all those years. So I think if there's more motions to come out, then that's fine, and that's good that you have those ideas and create a motion and a number that will be voted on by the group. So that's how we get things moving forward and to the motion. Is that your only?
Any other thought? This is Christmas? Any others?
I don't,
I really don't want to go any further because I'm just getting angry, so I want to...
Yeah, and I think it's important.
Well, I think it's important we present our ideas too, and it depends what time you want to be out of here as to how long your presentation is. So, are you done?
yes.
Okay, so we'll go to Councillor Moore.
I guess what I'd like to see is maybe a different attitude toward what is presented, in that the service levels that we want to present to our community are, to the best of the direction we've given so far, have been put out here by administration. There are cost increases. It's going to cost more. All around us, they have been increasing tax rates by around the 4% margin. And so we might think we're an island, but we're not. And I think maybe we need to get used to the idea that we're not just here to keep cutting and sniping. Administration's done an awesome job, and they are a team that we can trust. I'd like to have more trust put in their hands, and that's why the contingency, I think, is an important thing to have, because again, on a weekend, when a disaster happens, what are we going to do?
We dealt with the contingency.
Okay, would you please not interrupt me?
Well, I'm calling point of order because we're trying to move them. That's already been discussed. And so we're trying to get the new ideas out onto the round table.
We'll see how yours
please
goes.
start your new ideas.
Okay, what I would like to see is that we accept the fact that there is going to be an increase in the money that we're going to need for the things that we do. And so let's not keep going back to trying to cut that. I'd like to see the service levels maintained or increased, because that's what our people want. And so that would be my input.
Okay. No motions that you'd like to put out? Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The only thing that comes out of this that I think that I would like to have explored or council considered to be explored, and that is the recycling. And the fact that it costs us an exorbitant amount of money to collect the blue bins, which actually end up going in essentially to the landfill anyway as a black bin content, I think that we could probably save us considerable amount of money for our taxpayers by just eliminating the blue bin program. Essentially, probably less than 1%, well, I know, less than 1% of the items that go into a blue bin are ever recycled. Most of it is paid for transportation for the recycling entity that takes those blue bins to transport it to a MRF to go to a landfill somewhere, essentially. So I would really like to explore the elimination of the blue bin. The town of Olds is eliminating their blue bin. This is becoming more and more prevalent throughout municipalities in the province, and I think that we should, I would ask the council support to explore ceasing the blue bin program.
Until it's practical. Until their actions accept.
Likelihood it's not going to happen.
Is that it, Councilor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Yes.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. All my issues were discussed in point 3 of the agenda, so I have nothing else. I look forward to everybody else's motions, though.
I'm still going to bring that motion about sending the community grant back for a revisit by the PGC to include things like the Canada Day and the Lions. So that would be one motion. Another motion would be on the policing retro I know there's no answer on it right now from the government, but if we have to pay that, I guess even Amanda administration bring back that number, what we would be accountable for, and have the discussion on how we're going to address it if we have to pay it. So that's another motion that I'll suggest, that we have administration bring back that, the debt that we would be responsible for should the government decide municipalities to pay it back. And I've talked a few years about a 3-year plan for our budget, and I think every year we shouldn't have to wonder what tax rate increase. I've seen a lot of good examples of how we can project over 2 or 3 years what we would see as increases, and I'm not debating with Councillor Moore, but I'm certainly not willing every year to approve a $800,000 increase. So I'd like to see some sustainability and continuity and make sure that we can address that. Our residents are aware and knowledgeable about where this council is heading. We have that opportunity for a 3-year plan, and we can, even if it's that rough draft, I mentioned last year that, you know, it was $1 million increase that our administrative team would like to see, and I mentioned as well that we'd like to see that over the years, not just all at once every year. And I think we want to work with them to get them, our municipality, where we need to be. So that comes by way of how do we, can we explore that 3-year plan so that 2004 and 2005 are looked after with a what's funny about that?
2004.
Didn't I say 4 and 5? Oh, 24. 20, well, you know what I meant.
I know what you meant. That's funny.
I wish we go, well, I don't wish we go back to 2004 because that was really high tax rates back then. But anyway, that's the 3-year plan, exploring the possibilities, the community grant, and the policing that might come on in our invoice, in our mail in form of an invoice one day. Well, that could be part of the conversation, but we have to have it. So, go ahead. Deputy Mayor, anything?
Yes.
So, over the past year, of all the calls I got, most were dealing with streets and sidewalk issues. The other one that I took a lot of heat on was disposal of grass. Grass, garden leaves, picking up leaves in the fall, no place to dump these things. So I would really appreciate if PEC can be tasked with looking at that level of service again and trying to find an alternative source or some way for our residents to dispose of their grass clippings, their leaves, their garden when they do their gardens in fall was a big issue, where to put all this stuff. And so that's one thing I would like. Secondly, just to touch on what John said, we approved $5,000 for about 30 minutes of fireworks. 30 minutes, not a problem. Everyone says that's great. Try and put up a Christmas light, we meet with resistance. So I support the Christmas lighting initiative, John. I have for 5 years with you.
Well, I have a bunch of stickies, so I hope here. There's one thing I would like to talk in camera about, maybe at the very end. It's not appropriate to talk about it, personnel related, not our personnel. It shouldn't be in a public setting. The police buyback that I suggested to Craig that you vetoed because it was for this afternoon, but I've already kind of explained it, so I don't want to waste your time. And my question is, tree maintenance, is that budgeted for? And tree replacement, like when a tree dies or is cut down by the town, do they plant a new one, or is that in the budget? Or I just want to know that it's there and maybe understand it better. The other thing is, if you look at like some of the costs, like I've heard people saying, that if the policing costs, for instance, so if you look at the town of Thorsby, I think it is, they actually have a line on their taxes that says policing, RCMP costs, and they reflect that that's not a town cost, that's a policing cost. And I wondered if that would, breaking it out like that, would help the community understand more that some of this isn't us. And since I saw it done that way, I thought, well, that's brilliant. Because it reduces your amount. And then in the downtown, and it kind of goes along the line of this, is maybe we could look at doing a BIA in the downtown where we roll their taxes into a special program where we use it to improve the look of the downtown and enhance it, make it better for the community. And what else? I said policing, downtown BIA. But yeah, I told you about police. Stars, we already talked about this. Now is my time, I guess, to ask the question about where is the paving of 23rd Street between 582 and the town limits?
Okay, so you have like 4 questions in there. I'm going to go back to the start. I'll let the administration answer all of them. I'm not sure what you said was vetoed by me.
Well, you told me I couldn't bring it up at that time, that I should bring it up this afternoon. So, but I've already had it.
I didn't veto
expressed.
it, I just
No.
put it into the right area in the agenda, so. But that was your question about 23rd Street is what I'm thinking.
And
So you started off with a question.
Do you want me to finish first? You can go ahead.
Craig got up there, but
So I'll just speak briefly about the police and the billing, and some towns have pulled their police funding amount and made it a separate line item on the tax bills so that they can show the citizens it's not them, and they've tried to show it that way. They've got their hands slapped by the province because the province, technically that violates what we're allowed to do. And so those places that have done that have been notified by the province, they need to stop that, yeah.
Well, I guess in another way, we could just make sure it's more prevalent discussion on, out there, that the cost of our CMP went up by. We need to promote that, we can't affect that cost, we can't cut it, we can't reduce it.
you want to bring a motion out about that?
Well, and maybe before that, we do, when we do budget stuff and tax rate stuff and we release it and put it on we always have like an info brochure that we put together that kind of shows the residents some of the key things that are part of the budget, that are part of the cost. So that's all part of one of the things that definitely gets highlighted because that is a significant part of the budget.
And
Can I just add to that if we're talking service levels again, and the PUC can always be addressed that if council sends them there, and directing administration how to do their job, we want to make sure we're doing it through the right process. If there's a service level we want to meet, like more information about our mail out, then we make a motion to send it to the right committee to deal with that. Because there'll be information about what you do already come with that. So your policing's answered, and your next one?
And then Craig can talk to the trees and
Talk to the trees.
and as well as that 582.
I've seen him talking to trees before.
I love talking to trees. You gotta hug them once in a while. They give you oxygen. It's awesome. What a relationship. Anyways, to speak to trees, there's no direct policy with respect to take a tree down, replace it with 2, or when we take a tree down, we come back and put a new one in. So it gets kind of like left to the department to selectively, depending on what's the purpose of us taking a tree down. Is it the health of the tree, or is it the health of the infrastructure? Do we put a tree back? Do we not put a tree back? So it's really hard to come up with something really concrete there. What I would sort of suggest is that our asset management plan will drive how we manage trees once that's fully implemented. So I think that's where we'll see the light coming from.
And Parks does do a little bit of that too.
Absolutely. We do tend to the trees. We take trees down, we do limb trimming, we do a lot of maintenance every year. We do have budget items to address those maintenance issues that we do address. But that higher level sort of policy driven approach to how we do what we do will come from an asset management plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the 23rd in town.
Sorry, I was trying to run away. That one's an interesting one. So we have been working pretty close with the county about how to maybe maximize the benefit to all the users of that road. So for 23, we're going to go ahead and get the intersection improved and continue those conversations to try and see something happen in 24 maybe.
So we're not paving it next year?
And sorry, was that question about the little discussion we had at the county about potentially doing a joint project?
No. It was about paving the road.
Or was it the project that got approved, you mean?
Well, did it get approved?
No.
you're talking about the current 23rd Street,
Yeah.
railway train.
To the train. Yeah, well, from 582 right through to the town.
Yeah, there's 2 projects there, just if I might. The project at the intersection is what we're moving forward with AT as a partnership for 23. There are conversations ongoing about the rest of the road up to the town boundary.
You might be asking about that project that was approved
So if you're asking about the 23rd Street improvements that were approved to be done? Is that what you?
That higher.
Yeah, sorry, you threw me off with asphalt.
Sorry.
It's just, no, it's the way my mind is geared. So that project will go forward in the spring. So right now they put the base stabilization into the existing surface, ground it in, packed it in. We went back and did some reworking just before freeze up. We're hoping the freeze up will do its final wiggle around, and then we'll grade it and pack it in the spring, and then they're going to bring in 6 inches of gravel and oil, and then that will create the hard running surface, remove the dust issue, and if that base is as stable as we hope it will ultimately be, it should be a good running surface for a number of years, and then there's also development issues there. But.
So while you're up there, like with train or with this new development proposal or whatever, like there's going to be infrastructure needed to be run to that property, isn't there? So
are you referring to the area structure plan that's in front of council at the moment?
Well, we can't really discuss that outside prior to the public hearings.
Okay.
That's the place to ask that one.
maybe you can answer that in here.
Well, even then.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Ask that question at the public hearing, which will be in a week and a half.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thanks. This is also for you, but it's not a question. I'm sorry, I troubleshoot for a living and I just can't not do it. So the lights on 20th and 20th, that is as a solution is, can we use the year-end, part of the year-end surplus to buy them when they're on sale after Christmas for next Christmas? It's just a question. And the final thing is, I would like to see a service level document that documents all the service levels that we have control over. Like the same as we have for snow removal. Instead of just having one document for snow removal, I would like to see a list of all the service levels because they're referred to all the time, but we don't have a standard of what that service level is. You just say, if we reduce this budget, it'll reduce the service level. I want to better understand what our service level is. So when people contact me, I can say, well, actually, with the snow one, I say to them, well, it didn't really snow 4 inches. And, it's all packed down. You can give them explanations if you understand what the service levels are.
So,
Ethan, we talked about this because, just yesterday, because we were talking about things going on here, and Ethan has the very best answer about this, because we've discussed the service level document with this very council last year. And now Ethan, your answer to that and asset management and on, so would you answer that?
Yeah, so we would ultimately like to have a service level document that helps us when we're doing budget. It helps council when they're making decisions about service levels. They're not small or quick things to develop. One of the things that's really helpful in developing those things is good information. And so one of the things that as we've explored and are enhancing our asset management development, which is slowly taking shape, we've identified that there's some crucial parts of that asset management development of that plan, that there'll be components that will be part of that will really help with the development of the service level plan or document. So that'll ultimately be part of the unfolding of the asset management plan. And a service level document is one of the components of a good asset management plan.
And when might we see that?
Oh, I don't know. That's continuing to take shape.
what was your question before that?
Before that?
How's the paid in 2030?
No, you said something before the asset, or the service level document.
It's a comment about Christmas lights, I think.
Christmas lights, the surplus, they're using surplus to,
Well,
and not just
Yeah,
Christmas,
answer
you
that.
could do this like for the seasons. You could invest in seasons, maybe using some of the surplus.
can you explain the service, how that works, Ethan? Or Amanda?
Yeah, I'll have to speak to the surplus.
So annually, probably around late February or March, we'll have an idea of what the surplus is for the year, and we would bring it at that time to council. And then there's certain policies that require us to reserve surpluses for certain things, and we would bring that information to you, as well as if there's anything left over, administration would make a recommendation for what it could be used for and reserved for, and at that time council can make suggestions, like such as your own right now, to likewise.
Okay. I think there was something else I had. Oh, I think many people have asked this throughout the year since I've been on. I was elected, and is that we're not dealing. Sorry, thanks, John. We're not dealing like everyone's saying. Like if you have to attend a meeting virtual, it's horrible, right? You can't see people. You try to listen online at the same time, and there's a delay, so you're hearing like the voice, it's replicating, so you can't do both. So I would very much like to see something from administration in the capital area about improving the community experience in our council. Because right now, they see us on the phone, right, which is fine, but they don't see you, they don't see you. Whereas the new systems can handle seeing everybody, right? And the speakers wouldn't have to be turned on. They would just be silent there all the time. If you turn the system on, they work. That was my last thing.
So with that, that's actually an issue that currently the PEC committee is working on and considering a few options, and will be bringing a recommendation to council.
Okay, so what motion do you have on that? Well, you didn't.
I got a motion.
I know you do, but
Well,
you did that motion.
I would ask that I can still ask for the council virtual system to be implemented this year. But I would like to see it in the budget somewhere. Like I know it's coming back, but it's going to affect the budget. Right? So if you have an estimate of the cost, that if it does end up on there, that's what I'm asking for.
Well, we don't know the cost. The committee's working on the costs, like they're getting all the cost options. And my understanding is they have a couple of options they're looking at, one really expensive and one less so. But I don't know much more than that, but that's
We have to be patient with committees and committee work and recommendations too, so it is on their docket, and you're dealing with it. I'm sure, I know, we all know that, it was a motion of council to send it to them.
And I'll make that motion about using or moving Canada Day fireworks to the community grant program.
Well, I'm making that motion about revisiting the grant guidelines to include those. So you go on a different one than that? I'm sorry, I'm not making the motion. You can make that motion, but it's on this list, and it includes the Lions, things like the Lions bus and the, so go ahead, I had that here, so if you want to make that motion, that's fine.
I just thought because it's kind of like, I think that's it. Well, the other one was, didn't we talk about, maybe the motion will pass, but talk about having administration conversations, sorry for pointing, conversations about library funding. Remember earlier when we were talking library? Again, I recommended that staff sit with staff at the library and find out from them, what do you need? Like, we're guessing what you need.
They presented their budget, is that different?
Well, it's different than what we're potentially funding because they try to fit into our scale, whereas if we're looking at an increment of 3%, then like I just
So
want
that's
to see a
been
line of communication.
It's been referred to the ICC committee, so I think that's where it's been referred to for recommendation back to council. So I don't know.
Well, but I think what you're, at ICC, you're not going to discuss the library itself and the functioning of two administrative departments working together, right? You're talking, it's going to ICC for appropriate, to discuss appropriate funding from Mountain View County, is my understanding.
No, that wasn't the only. Administration could certainly we can do a variety of topics and everything. We're gonna have the motion send it to ICC. So I think once ICC comes back with a recommendation, which we're meeting this week, and it'll be at the December 13th meeting.
Perfect.
So then we can go from there.
I can make that one if I want.
Do you have my motion on your list?
Well, you're gonna make it. I'm just gonna go around and,
Okay.
were you gonna make the ICC motion though, that we talked about?
Oh, if you like.
Because of the nature of our discussion about that?
And
And what we're gonna encompass?
You mean all the things we're going to encompass, because we're meeting about the ICC.
Yeah, the
in
agreement.
general. Do we need to have another motion?
I would just
No.
recommend a simple motion that the library item be referred to the ICC group for
That
recommendation.
makes sense.
Okay, so Councillor Moore can make that, since we're just an ICC committee member. And you don't have any motions? You don't have any motions? You have one. You don't have any?
I have one.
What do you have now?
I just thought, I would
Like the PW006 snow clearing policy to be reviewed and recommended by the Policy and Governance Committee. I just want it to be sent to that committee because it's not been updated in 5 years.
Maybe it might be better to PEC if it's a level of service.
Yeah.
If your intent is you
Yeah.
want them to.
PEC, I just thought it
Snow
would go to
clearing level of
policy.
service.
Oh, they'd set the level of service and then send it back for a revisit
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
bylaw. It's a bylaw or policy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go around then. Everybody's got all their things off their chest?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with Councillor Moore on that ICC motion.
Sure. I move that the library item be referred to the ICC committee.
For review and recommendation.
All right?
You have to vote on
Yes. All in favor? Nobody's recorded that, or who's recording that?
I got it.
Oh,
And Amanda, I think, too.
thank you, Bill.
And Kelsey, we got three of us on. We got three of us on.
Everybody.
So we also want to have one more motion.
It's words. Thank you, Mayor. Do we do these the same format as we would in a regular council meeting? All right, then I will move that council direct administration to explore the possibility of the discontinuation of the blue bin program with the implication to the budget.
Okay. I'm not gonna ask for questions, all right? I can. All in favor? That's carried. I think we discussed in at length, so. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council move to send the snow clearing policy to the Performance Evaluation Committee.
Is that just a policy or is it a bylaw? It's a policy?
It's a policy.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, and my motions are, I'm gonna have someone make the motion about the policing, the impact of the retroactive pay, and the amount that council or our town would be responsible for, and more for a discussion during the budget talks, because we need to know that information, I think, as just an awareness, number one, and number two, preparedness, if that's the case. But we don't know where it's going, but we sure should have the information. The motion is to bring the direct administration to bring back the information about the amount owing. Where are we to be invoiced for it?
Yeah.
Who would make that? Councillor Windsor? All in favor? It's carried. Then I had this, that the community grant be forwarded to the Policy and Governance Committee to revisit for inclusion of items such as Canada Day event, Stars Lions funding. Who would like to make that? Councillor McCoy?
The opening,
No, Councillor Windsor made the last one.
yes, yeah.
And then Councillor McCoy wants to make this community grant one for a revisit to the PGC. All in favor?
It's all, sorry, Mayor.
It's carried.
Let a friendly edit to what's just passed.
Well, I didn't really,
Because community grants is currently with SPC, so it would just be, if it's okay, added direction to SPC.
There's an outstanding one.
To add these things to the things they're working on already with this.
well, this is the actual policy. So that would go to the Policy and Governance Committee.
Whoa, it's just that the things that you're talking about aren't so much policy structure as much as it's the scope and vision of it, which have budget implications, which really are better with SBC. If after that it needs some policy structure put to it, then that would go in. But it's with SBC because of the budget implications of the issues that are being discussed and considered.
Like there's an outstanding resolution already on that policy that put it on SPC's agenda.
Because they're dealing with funding, but this one has $30,000 in funding that's different than that.
But
It's already allocated.
But it's changing the scope of how you use those funds, and that's why SPC is better.
Yeah. Well, I disagree, but I don't care. Whatever the motion is fine.
I'm okay with that amendment.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. That's what I said, I guess, or whoever made that motion, Councillor McCoy. Okay.
I mean, well, PGC gets it at the end anyway. So
Well,
yeah,
it's fine. It's passed. That's okay.
we have to vote.
But we did, because we voted and then he changed it, but that's what we intended.
Jackson's vote to vote.
Okay, and the other one is continue to explore a 3-year plan for our budget. And I think that's, we don't want to burden, we want to get through our budget, but I think I want to keep that on the, on our radar that, you know, why can't we continue these discussions while we talk about the budget into a 3-year plan projection. And that might not be in March that happens or April, but it just means that we have it on our radar to continue to explore that 3-year operating budget plan. We have a capital plan, but yeah.
Is that something that you might want the Finance Committee to look at?
Sure, that's fine.
Like if you send that to the Finance Committee as to how and what the structure of that,
The SBC.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Mhm. So we can, do you want to make that?
Sure.
Okay. So you can do some, that's a good idea, to do the legwork there. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Councillor Deputy Mayor?
I might need some help. I'm going to use a famous quote from a famous man. This may be clunky. I move the council task PEC with looking for a solution to the disposal of grass clippings, garden waste, etc. for our residents.
I don't know quite how to word that.
That sounded good.
Where's the quote from the famous man?
Clunky.
Clunky.
Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Councillor McCoy?
I need that one. Do I have another one?
No, I don't think so, Joyce. I think yours was covered, but most of yours were questions.
Yeah. The only one would be that if, I guess I would like to see, I know budget's an estimate, so in the budget I would like, before you get the final surplus numbers, I'd sort of just like a squishy number. Like, not that we're gonna hold them to, but at this point in time, we think it's gonna be around just to help us with budgeting, because I think that will affect some of our choices. Because if we show up with a big surplus, there's maybe areas that we can further cut. That was the only
You'd have to make the motion.
I don't know how to do that.
think
I'll do it
adminis-
at the meeting, I'll do it, you know what, I will do it at
Well,
the
Council.
council.
yeah, and administration would want to speak to that too, because the surpluses. But it's, motions can be made, so if you want to do that on the 13th. And what, you didn't want anything done about the policing and the budget and how it's broke down to our residents and
Oh,
to the
yeah,
committee?
yes, correct, yes. I'll make a motion that administration plan.
I think we're going to send it to a committee.
Okay, so.
Was the other one about putting it on the tax bills?
But how to review what is currently in the tax bills and how they would break it down.
Oh, you mean the info document?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's
So
already
that just
defined, isn't it?
council, or that, well, where should it go? To PGC?
Probably PEC again.
Yeah, would that be PEC or maybe SPC since it's related to the budget?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
And since Amanda's the one that develops it.
Right, okay. Just that, yeah,
Or
the,
Kelsey.
And John.
And John,
Kelsey and John.
it's kind of a little bit above. So you got a clear enough motion there, Ethan, that
I'm awake.
that the SBC explores the
Yeah,
information
review
set-
and make recommendations on
how the tax
Called the
breakdown is sent out to.
the tax rate.
It's a budget.
Budget brochure, okay.
It's not a budget brochure. It's actually a tax document, not a budget document. There is no budget document. No.
Right,
So if you're.
that's what we
But
meant.
it kind of fills both of them, it's really tough.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
That's carried. And then Councillor Baswick's motion?
Well, thank you. First thing I want to say, that preamble is, the purpose of this is to free up Public Works from having to mess with this kind of thing. Okay, so just one less thing they have to do. I'm moving that council approve a one-time $20,000 budget to kickstart our downtown Christmas decorating initiative, hiring professional installers.
Next year, we wouldn't get it this year.
What's that?
For next year?
Well, it ain't gonna happen.
What about a friendly amendment, though, to, at the discretion of administration, who hangs them? Because that might be, let's let them decide?
No, I want professionals to do it. Right now, we've got a 4-inch ball and a post there to decorate. I don't like that. You know, come on.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not, well,
That's a little weird.
go ahead.
I'm just wondering if maybe we might be able to do part of what you would like. I think that probably having a motion that we allocate a certain amount, say $5,000 or $10,000 toward lighting or banners or decorations for Christmas in this year's budget, so that we have some movement toward that, might be a first step. So rather than leaping to having somebody else do it, if we could just move along the path that we already have with the possibilities. Anyway, that's a possibility. I just want to bring that forward, and I have a motion that would do that.
I'd accept that.
And then it's up for debate whether it's professionals and then they decide.
So do you want to do that? That you're relinquishing that just to listen to it?
Yeah.
And then we'll decide on the motion?
I don't want to take away from that, but I don't know what the number is that we need to get that started. I don't know how much did we spend last time? 5,000?
December 3rd, right?
I know, but, and getting them after Christmas would definitely be cheaper. So.
All Michelle is shooting for is downtown,
Next year.
whatever.
Can we just get, before all this, because I don't think we've got that, what is the update? The lights were removed, there is a plan to get some back. Are they all up that are going to be up? Or is there more work to be done on those with lights? Because I know there are some lights on the trees downtown, but what is in the works right now that might help with some?
So Christmas lights in the downtown. So what we did was we took off the old Christmas lights off the trees. The nets have been installed around the trunks. Additional baskets, like flower baskets, were deployed and Christmas decorations were set out. But I believe, and the garland was put up. There was talk about putting nets over top of the trees as well as a blanket. I've noticed that didn't occur, and I haven't gotten an update as to what the reasonings behind that was. I don't know whether there's a product problem or a power problem or anything, so I don't have a status update on that. But this is kind of the extent that was expected to go out, other than those sort of like the canopies over top of the trees.
The trees, the trunks are all done.
The trunks are done. They're not all lit because not all power poles have power at them along 20th Street. So that's, we try and hop skip from one to the other where we can. There are some businesses that give us power and supply it for others that try and fill in the gaps. So there does need to be an assessment, let's say, of where we have power available, how far we can string power from point A to wherever, where there's not power. So there's some work to do on that.